account of one of the nuns who was there when it happened. Caroline Farrow is from Catholic Voices. She's married to a priest who converted to Catholicism, having previously been a Church of England vicar. We can speak to her now from our London newsroom. Very good morning to you. I just thought first maybe your thoughts on the sequence of events and what happened to Fr Jacques Hamel.
Well, obviously, it was absolutely horrific. I mean, words fail. How could anybody kill an elderly man, a man of God, who was celebrating Mass with his community? And as somebody, as you said, who is married to a priest, it really kind of hits home, because this happened in a quite small provincial area. You know, not a cultural melting pot. You know, this morning, as I'm talking to you now, my husband is getting ready to say Mass this morning at his church, and it does make you think, gosh, you know, will he be next?
How do you react? How does your husband react to the advice from police? They're effectively reissuing some security advice and just asking churches and priests to think a little more about their security. In practical terms, what can be done?
Well, actually very little. And the one thing that we do have to remember is that this horror that happened in Normandy yesterday is faced by Christians in the Middle East on a daily basis. In the UK, I don't think there's very much that can be done. You know, the church hasn't really got the money or the desire to be surrounding priests with security guards. Pope Francis himself, back in November, when he was threatened by so-called ISIS militants, they said, you know, we're going to wave the ISIS flag in St. Peter's Square, in the Vatican, over St. Peter's. He said, we don't want the church to be an iron fortress. Priests are supposed to be servants of God and servants of the people, and we don't want to have them one step removed. And although what happened was beyond horrific, actually we need to get a sense of perspective. We have the same chance of say being run over by a bus, and priests also know that they are, because of the very nature of their role, they're often targeted by some very vulnerable people. You know, a priest is often a focal point for people with various problems. You know, from our own personal perspective, we had somebody flanked by ambulance men knocking down on our door a couple of months ago who had various issues. We've seen clergy in the UK be murdered, both Anglican and Catholic, on account of their faith. So, you know, priests know that they are vulnerable, and this is a responsibility that they're happy to take on. I don't think you're going to want to see people sort of surrounding themselves with armed guards. And, you know, in the Middle East, where we have these situations, any security that's organised tends to be by the local people, you know. So Christians going to church get escorted, you know, and very often you see Muslims providing that protective escort for them. You know, there's sort of reinforced ring, you know, so they can walk to church safely. And, you know, and we saw, I think there was an attack a few years ago, and Muslims linked arms around a church in solidarity. So, you know, any sort of security that will happen, or I think will be in response to any increased or escalated attacks. But at the moment, it's hard to see what can be done. And as I say, we don't want a situation where priests are sort of, you know, surrounded by guards and set apart from the people.
Caroline, thank you so much for your time this morning. That's Caroline Farrow from Catholic Voices. Her husband, as you heard, is a Catholic priest.